Cheerio. Bonjour. I hope all of you all are well. It's a wonderful evening here in Washington, D.C. We had lots of heavy, heavy thunderstorms. And I've been gardening so much that I'm weary people are going to think I'm a grandmother. I mean, I even bought one of those garden chairs that has big wheels on it so that I just push myself around. It's creepy, but I'm having a lot of fun. I've planted flowers. I put them in peat pots. They blossomed, and now I've moved them to big pots out at the end of the back stairs. So we'll see if those work out. Hope all of you all are well. So I want to talk about Leslie Van Houten. Obviously, well, she's from the Manson family. I assume most of you know who the Manson family were, still are. I assume many of them are still alive. Most of them are still in prison. Susan Atkins, which I'll get to, she died in 2009, so she's been dead 14 years. Tex Watson is still in prison. He's still alive. I think most of them are still alive. The other two women that were with Leslie, well, one was Susan, and the other one, I cannot remember her name, and I'm shocked I do not remember. But one of her issues was she had hair all over her body. I mean, she had hair on her back, and it was apparently pretty thick. And so she was quite self-conscious. You know, she was an 18-year-old girl. And Manson told her she was beautiful, and he loved it, and he made her feel good. You know, he preyed on her, you know what I'm saying, your things that you worry about yourself. Oh, my goodness. He preyed on what she considered her faults. I did have a brother-in-law who was very, very good looking. And he had chest hair exactly on this one side, not a stitch on the other side. And on his back, it was opposite. And I mean, it was a perfect straight line. And I'm 52. He's probably about 60 or 62 now. 20 or 30 years ago, he ended up having it lasered and fixed. But I mean, it was he looked like a little chessboard or a black and white cake or a black and white cookie. Anyway, I need to shut up. So Leslie was finally released. She's been incarcerated since 1969. I believe she should have been released a long, long, long time ago. She was 19 years old. She was raised in a normal middle-class family, probably just like most of us were. She played soccer. She was actually the homecoming queen. She was that pretty. I was not the homecoming queen. I know, you're shocked, but I wasn't. Here's something very, very creepy. She got pregnant her senior year in high school, and her mother forced her to have an abortion, and the fetus was buried in the backyard. I tried to find details about the abortion. I'm not sure if that's a banned word or not, but I couldn't find anything. I don't understand how your mother forces you to do that, and then you have a fetus. But those were coat hanger days, you know. Did anybody watch Mommy Dearest? Wire hanger, no wire hangers. That was a big joke in my family. Anyway, where was I going? Oh, so shortly after the abortion, she ran away, and she went to Haight-Ashbury, and they were doing a lot of drugs, smoking a lot of pot, and I guess acid was the big thing. I believe I'll say this in a minute, but they were all on acid during the entire trial. I assume, you know, police, the sheriffs who worked in the jail were the ones bringing it in. So, here's Oscar. Say hello, Oscar. Oh, he's camera shy. So the one night, you know, the Manson family went to Sharon Tate's house. The reason they went to that house was because a record producer, I think his name was Terry Mulcher or something. His mother was a famous actress. Had lived there, and Manson was invited to this. Terry Mulcher, I believe. Melcher was invited to his house to play for him to see if he was good enough to maybe, you know, sign a record deal. And Manson went over there, and Melcher just didn't. He was like, "Yeah, you're nothing special," and leave. And I'll tell you what, if you listen to Manson, he's really not that bad. I knew someone who had a tape of him. I think my buddy Red did. I listened to it. I mean, it wasn't great, but it really wasn't terrible. And so Manson was, furious that Melcher didn't sign him to a contract. So meanwhile, Melcher moves out, goes to a different house, and Sharon Tate and her child-loving husband, Roman Polanski. Really weird how he's from Hollywood. As if you've seen the movie Freedom of Silence, Silence of Freedom, the Mel Gibson movie. I'm going to see it. I have not seen it. If you've seen it, let me know below. I'm definitely going to go see it. So they moved in, and Polanski was somewhere shooting a film in France or something. I'm sure he was enjoying himself with children. Okay, so Sharon had 5 or 6 friends over. And then they had a caretaker house. The caretaker was inside, and he was selling a clock radio. You know the little clock radio that you could buy at People's Drugstore for $9.99, and every single family in America had this identical little radio. But some dude was driving over to look to buy it, and he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the Manson family took him out as well. But I mean, these people were really, really creepy to what they did. Okay, here's them going into court, and I'll be right back. Okay, here are the ladies walking into court. This is Susan Atkins right here. She's the one I told you about. They were all arrested at Spawn Ranch. Well, they were arrested in August and then almost immediately released. The police really had no evidence. And they moved to a place called Barker Ranch. These were movie studios, Western kind of stuff. And in October of 1969, the police came back and arrested all of them. And during this arrest, Susan Atkins was in jail trying to be really cool, and so she was bragging about what she had done. She said that not only did she stab Sharon Tate, but she also tasted her blood. I mean, goodness. Susan Atkins died in 2009, and she did not die in prison. They allowed her out 2 or 3 months, a compassionate release, so she died at home, and someone took care of her. I actually believe she was married. Okay, so they do not, yes, they do have the swastikas in their head. So there's Leslie right there. I mean, we just saw her just a moment ago. I mean, look how pretty she is. Look at how pretty she is. What a shame. Her parents had to be horrified. Another thing is, it's not like her last name is Smith. So if your name is Van Houten, I mean, the dry cleaner is going to look at that and think, is that your daughter I'm seeing on TV these days? I don't know why there's no sound. Or maybe there's just no sound. They're just laughing. So I already told you, I believe, these girls were on acid daily. I don't know who was giving them the acid, but, I mean, they were tripping their tail off. There's Charles Manson. He only died a few years ago. Sicko. His logic was he didn't put the knife in anyone's hands. He was not there. So why should he be convicted? But as we all know, that didn't work. Okay, so those ladies didn't look very disturbed about being walked into court, did they? But again, they were tripping on acid. Their life was a Grateful Dead concert. I went to a few Grateful Dead concerts. I did spend a summer driving up and down the East Coast, smelling like patchouli. I never wore patchouli. I thought it was disgusting. But I didn't trip either. I did do a little of the smoking of the devil's grass. But, so, the Manson family, they get a whole bunch of people. The woman who drove, her name was Barbara something. I'm thinking Kardashian, but I know it's not that. She drove both nights and ended up flipping and telling the police everything and didn't serve even a moment in jail. Well, she may have served a few days, but I'm not so cool about that. But I digress. They go to that Tate house and they slaughter these people. I mean, apparently Abigail Folger said, "I'm already dead. You don't have to stab me anymore." And Abigail Folger was on the lawn. I mean, she had gotten out of the house and was able to escape, but she wasn't fast enough. But I believe that LSD and PCP gives you extra, power and strength. It pumps your adrenaline up. Uh, Sharon Tate, obviously, she was 8.5 months pregnant, and all she did was just beg her, "Please, just let me have my baby." Well, Leslie stabbed Sharon 14 times. Oh, I struggle, cutting chicken. Uh, I could, I'm speechless. 14 times she stabbed this woman. That's horrendous. Okay, okay. So they go to trial. They all get the death penalty. At that point, Leslie Van Houten was the youngest woman ever to get the death penalty. Now it's another chick, Krista Pike. I wrote it down. Yeah. She was born in 1970. She's 47 years old right now. She was convicted when she was 20. She killed her best friend or something down in Durham, North Carolina. Maybe I'll look into it. If it's interesting, I'll talk about it. But in 1972, the California Supreme Court overturned the death penalty. So all of their sentences were commuted to life. Now, for whatever reason, Tex Watson stayed in Texas, and he's never been moved to California. And he'll never be released either. And he's still a pretty good-looking dude. It's really sad when good-looking people kill other people. Have you guys heard about this chick in Georgia? Her husband, very, very, very wealthy. They had a home in the Bahamas. Pretty little blonde girl. And she started banging some dude in the Bahamas. Well, that dude ends up committing a totally different crime. And the police confiscate his phone, and they start going through his messages. And they find out he's involved in a murder for hire. This woman, she wants, I don't know why I'm pointing at her like she's in my backyard. Hey, honey bunny, you in my backyard? So now they've all been arrested, and they're actually all out on bail right now, which doesn't make any sense. And the dude she was banging, and I'm guaranteed he didn't have the money. Her husband looked like he really had class. From what I understand, her husband paid the bail, although I see other reports that he didn't. Okay, I'm just running my mouth. 1972, death penalty. In 1975, death penalty overturned. So she's commuted to life. In 1975, she was finally released into general population. She had been kept in solitary since, 1970. I mean, 5 years, all by yourself, 23 hours a day. I'd probably hate myself by then. But, and the reason she was moved was because she never had a disciplinary action. In all of her time in prison, 1970 to 2023, 53 years. 53 years in prison. Wow. I'm not even 53 years old. That's crazy. She never had one single write-up. So in 1976, she was resentenced for whatever reason. It's California. They're a little wacky out there. To 7 years to life. So she was up for parole every few years. Now, Betty Broderick only gets a parole hearing every 9 years, which I don't know why, and it doesn't make sense to me. Leslie got a parole hearing, I believe, every 2 years. In 2013, her 20th parole was denied. I believe it was the next time the parole board said, let her go, and the governor denied it. That was Jerry Brown. Every parole hearing she had since after 2013, the parole board said, let her go. And the governor always said, no, no, no. And of course, Sharon Tate's sister is still very, very vocal. And I'm not in that situation. I understand. But again, you may disagree. Let me know below. I think the woman, Leslie, was in a cult. She was 19 years old. I mean, they were doing some funky stuff. It's similar to Scientology. I mean, she was completely brainwashed. Once she was away from this man and the brainwashing, it was very shortly she went, holy cow, what did I do? I mean, she immediately showed remorse. They all showed remorse right away. I hope the other woman, the hairy woman, the one with all the hair on her back, gets out. I hope she doesn't watch when she does get out. You know what? They all have notebooks. You know, there's electronic notebooks in jail now. So they get to watch YouTube and stuff. Their YouTube is limited, but they get to see stuff. I mean, being in prison, well, never mind. I do not want to be in prison. I've got some wood right now. So this last time, right now, it is August. I'm going on vacation next week. I wish I'd have written down my dates, but I didn't. I believe it was in late June or so. The parole board said, let her go. And Gavin Newsom, who wants to be president, said, I'm not going to fight it. Let her go. And at that point, they said, within 14 days, she will be released to a halfway house because they have to teach her everything. When this woman left society, we had phones that you put your finger in it and you dialed around. 703. So you guys, my dog just barked. I had someone comment and said, it's terrible that your dog makes all that noise. I can't hear you. Well, I apologize that my dog barked. So if you're watching, please forgive me. That was our phones. People didn't use credit cards the way that they do now. I mean, we pay for everything that way. I just said the phone thing. But think about how different life is from 1970. And she was 19, living on a ranch with no electricity. You know, she left home, a protective, beautiful home, to go there. So she was even more behind. So anyway, she goes to a halfway house for up to 1 year as they try to transition her into society, help her get a job. She has very, very, very many very, very wealthy friends. So she's not going to have any problem. One of her wealthy friends will hire her, you know, give her some income, make her do a couple things. This woman is not a threat to society. I don't believe, even a little. And again, I think she should have been released, I'm sorry, but maybe in 1985 or so, a long, long, long time ago. So thank you for watching. If you're still watching, you know I'm shocked. Wow. Hit like, hit subscribe, and God bless this America.